You were editor at Vogue Australia for 13 years. You worked in the industry for 25 years. So explain to me, what would some of the models do to try and lose weight?
I do want to clarify that this is just a small percentage of the modelling industry, and I have discussed this over the past few days. I think if you really look at the top supermodels, anybody that had longevity in their career was obviously staying in shape the right way. But I certainly heard stories over time that there were, drastic means that the girls were using to stay catwalk size, and definitely, I mean, it was one season, and it was a few years back, probably the thinnest season that I remember. And a model agent told me that some of the girls had resorted to eating tissues, which I'd never heard of.
Wow, and there was also this description which you used yourself called Paris thin. What exactly is Paris thin?
Well, I suppose when we were in Australia, we were casting the Australian girls who we thought were a healthy size to be portraying in the magazine. Quite often they wanted to go to Paris and walk the catwalks because that's a huge step for a girl and can really open up her career. But the sizes they needed to be were usually 2 sizes down from the current size that we were shooting them at. So they would therefore go on quite drastic diets to get themselves Paris thin and hopefully cast that show.
Now, in your book, you write, I did consider myself to be part of the problem. I would make judgment calls as the models passed me as to whether I felt that they were too thin, and you had to make that call every single day. So I ask you, why not do something about it when you had the chance rather than write a book about it now?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we're one part of the industry. Fashion editors and magazine editors are one part of the industry. So the calls that you can make are the decisions that you're making, the girls that you're choosing to shoot, the girls that you're choosing to portray. But you are not in charge of the runways, of casting directors overseas, of how designers choose to present their clothes. I mean, an editor in Australia is a part of a giant industry, but I certainly felt like I made those calls and tried to make those calls, not because the readers are the first people to complain if they thought that they saw models that looked too skinny or indeed looked sick. So I do think that, as opposed to blowing the whistle on the entire industry, this is a portion of the industry I'm talking about, not the whole industry.
But it's the stuff that gets attention.
Is complicit in a way.
Yeah. Hey, you raised the point. I was going to say it's the part of the industry which gets a lot of attention. And you raised the point.
Yes, it does, and
that people would complain to you that some models look too thin, and that was actually my next question, because I don't know anyone in the real world who will look at a woman with a skeletal frame and say, "Wow, doesn't she look great?" So, where does this trend come from, and why are they getting thinner?
I don't know that they're getting thinner. I actually would disagree and say that they were thinner a few years ago. There was a season, I'm probably going to say about 2005, where practically every fashion editor would agree with you that the girls got too thin. And they were, wearing terribly high heels, and I think that season made all of us very nervous. But some people want to present those images, whether it's a photographer, whether it's a stylist, whether it's a casting director, who want to see them particularly thin. There are different opinions and attitudes within that. I know that as you say, every red hot blooded guy normally says they like to see the girls more curvy, but I actually do see a trend towards this now, because I think readers are voting with their feet, and there's so many places more to go now to get your fashion information. I actually do think we're going to see a change away from the really super skinny model. These are observations in my book that I saw over the years, so it's not me coming out and addressing it now to get publicity. These are observations, and everybody in the industry would know it to be a truism at some point.
Okay, I have to ask you about this one final point. You were let go, as we say, as editor of Vogue Australia there last year. And your critics have said that this book, it's just payback, that this is all about revenge. What do you say to them?
No. Well, I think you need to read the book, because the book is not a revenge book, and it's not bitter at all. In fact, my whole tone of the book is quite motivational for young people in the industry. And my observations, as I said, on the fashion industry are merely that. You need to read it. It's certainly not a payback. The world's too small. And I didn't feel like that. I loved working there, and I just wanted it to be a book about what a great time and what I'd seen.